Thanks for tuning in, guys. Today we are talking to Problematic Farmer. You might remember her from the Golems video. She's the one that gave me all those cool talking points. Problematic Farmer and I today are going to be talking about Bojack Horseman. We are super.
Yeah.
I am super late to the party talking about this, but there's a lot to talk about.
We got this. There's so much in-depth lore to the animation, the artistic style, the creative choices behind that masterpiece of a show. Let's just start off with, I believe Bojack Horseman fully depicts the reality of what it's like to live with addiction, mental illness, struggling with the trauma of intergenerational trauma from his parents, and how it further grew throughout his life, and he was enabled by the people around him. And I think there are multiple episodes that kind of perfectly depict this, and I would say that one of those episodes starts off with the old Sugarman place. If you go back to that episode, we see throughout it the various flashbacks, and how those flashbacks then pulled back into the future, and you could see in the present how it is. And I think it's kind of like a beautiful contrast to show the terror and the trauma that Beatrice was going through at that time, and how it then turned into Bojack's present trauma.
That is very true.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads actually into one of my personal favorite episode, which is the old Sugarman place, because it explains to you, right, like, even though it is very much not Beatrice's fault what happens to her mother, it is still something that was done to a lot of people, actually, during the war, of just, what do you mean you lobotomize them?
Exactly, and I think that's something that goes to show with Bojack is Beatrice's mother, she never got to watch her mother truly mourn the loss of her son and fully be able to express her pain. And her mother lost her baby, Crackerjack. That was her baby. And so that took on, and that, I'm sure that went on to Beatrice. She was like, I don't know how to process mourning loss. It's better if I just become cold and detached like my mother. And I think then that modeled for Bojack, there is no healthy way to properly show and express your emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to look through and say that's the depiction of intergenerational trauma. You have Beatrice on one hand, whose mother was never able to properly show her emotions, and then Beatrice's father, who kind of set up this depiction of what marriage should be, what her life should be. And she rebelled against that at some point. She found someone who she thought depicted what resembled someone who her father wouldn't approve of. Yet, she still fell into the same patterns that her mother was in, being very, you know what? I will do it. Okay, we will do what you want. But for Beatrice, of course, being more cold and detached in a way.
Yeah. Like, Beatrice is shown in the old Sugarman place of, you went to college and you got a master's degree in, I forget what she got a master's degree in something, and it's like, damn, lady, you got a master's degree and you still ended up being a housewife? But why?
Exactly, and I think it's because she's following what was modeled to her. You can tell that she has these dreams, these hopes, these visions for what she wants her life to be. And that's where it gets interesting into the dynamic between her and Bojack. Is it's really a question of if she ever truly loved him. That's the thing that Bojack constantly wonders throughout the series. And I think that episode shows truly where she felt that internal dilemma that she had a life that she wanted with a man she felt truly loved her, but she instead she at that time wanted to rebel and find someone who she thought was, I'm not sure, maybe had that like optimism in the moment for a good life. But when he wasn't able to provide that or properly meet her needs, and she had a son, like how can she bond with him if she's already feeling this I guess intense grudge or rage for the position she's already in.
Yeah. And in the old Sugarman place, well, no, not the old Sugarman place. No, it is. You see that what happened with Henrietta, who she keeps, mistaking everybody for, she basically gave this girl a way out of, like, you don't want the baby and also doing your nursing career, because one's gonna take more than the other, and you need to focus on the one that's actually gonna get you places. So, give the baby up, forget about it, move on with your life. And it's like, Henrietta, not everything has to be like that. Like, Beatrice is coming from a place of good intentions, but man, is it from a really skewed perception of good intentions.
Exactly. And she's projecting her own trauma onto this poor girl. And it ended up having, like, devastating effects. And that's, again, I think, not so much intergenerational, I think partially intergenerational, but also how the effects just continue and continue by people who are unaware of the state of the true state they're in.
Yeah, kind of like that leads into my other favorite episode, Good Damage, which actually comes in the final season of Bojack Horseman, where Diane has to come to terms with, look, your damage that happened to you, it happened, but you're in a good, happy place now, and your brain doesn't want to remember all the horrible shit that happened. Sometimes the answer to moving on is let the past die, because there's no way to change it, and digging back into it is just gonna make you upset. Go live your happy life.
Exactly, and that episode alone, I feel like season 6, the final season,
it's just great character development.
And, like, what's interesting is, hi, my name's Problematic Farmer. I'm a former addict. Hi, Problematic Farmer. And I struggle with mental illness. Hi, Problematic Farmer. And so, of course, with this show, I find a lot of relatability and see a lot of myself in the show. And so season 6, frankly, I've never seen a more accurate depiction of recovery. And because people think recovery is like, oh, suddenly it all snaps into place. All your trauma, all your emotions, all your feelings just snap. And then you're recovered, you're sober, you're good to go. And that's not the reality of it. And I think that's what season 6 in particular shows, is like going through the rehab. Yeah, you go through the motions. Yeah, you get sober. Cool. But the pain is still there. The past is still there. And what are you supposed to do with that? And so I think it's something to show, like, yeah, you can no longer have these mechanisms, but you're still going to feel that pain. And Bojack having to process through that he's sober, but all that shit is still there. All the consequences of his actions, all the people who have been in and out of his life. But at the same time, he's having to rebuild another life. And it's kind of like this duality, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've never seen it. Frankly, I've never seen something more accurately depicted.
Yeah. Also, in one of the episodes for season 6, character actress Margot Martindale, who has been a constant throughout the show, quote-unquote lost her memory and has been in a nunnery, but when you find out she gets it back that same episode, she brings up a really good question. It's like, but the people I hurt and everything, does me saying I want to join a nunnery and my sins are washed clean, does it mean that everybody I hurt prior to this has also been washed clean and it's no longer a thing? And it's like this right here. Just because you got a free pass for forgiveness doesn't mean the people that you hurt are ready to forgive you. That's not how this works.
Or even are entitled to forgive you. And that's what also I think in the final episode, Nice While It Lasted, shows is like, yeah, Bojack hurt people. Yeah, he was in recovery. Yeah, he had to face the consequences of his actions. It all catched up. Or caught up. Yeah, it all caught up to him. And so, and even when Diane was talking to him, she's like, I'm moving away. I'm starting a new life. Maybe we'll talk, maybe we won't. And then Todd saying it was nice while it lasted. And there's truth to that, is that, like, no matter what you do, no matter the internal and external changes you make to correct the behavior, and to make those amends and try to build those relationships again, these consequences are still there. It's what it is, and that's why I say he didn't get a happy ending. He got a realistic ending,
right?
And that's perfect to me. That's the perfect ending.
Yeah, and here's a good one-for-one, like, real-life example of you are allowed to say you're sorry, and then that other person is not entitled to forgive you. What happened with me and little baby bitch boy on your server, because that's what you have him titled as.
Yeah.
I came back and I apologized for what I did, and I point-blank said, it's like, I'm not asking you to forgive me, I just want to tell you I'm sorry for the way I acted.
Mm-hmm.
And his response to me was, no, that's okay, I do forgive you, it was a really heated situation. That was it. That was the entire end of our conversation and the last bit of our interaction, and I'm okay with that, because sometimes the only thing you can do is apologize, and then that's the end of your relationship. Just,
that's it.
It's time to move on, so that way we can grow as people. It's not a bad thing, it's just a thing.
Exactly, and I think that's why, like, it's interesting to watch that BoJack in particular, because it has so much for self-reflection. There's so many things in it where, yeah, you can like BoJack, but you can also hate him. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we relate to him. Like, realizing, like, for me, with my own struggles in my past, I've hurt people. I'll be very, very real. I've hurt people. I've effed up. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse. I've effed up. and so I've had to come to a point where instead of me sitting there on my hands and like knees begging for forgiveness, I had to realize, like, am I doing this for them or for myself? Am I trying to make amends or exonerate my guilt? What is it? And I had to come to a place to realize, like, I can go to someone and say, here are the things I did wrong, and I acknowledge it. I know how it was wrong, and I know how it affected you, and I'm truly sorry. And, you know, maybe see if there's a possible, depending on the situation, of course, a possible way to maybe, like, rebuild that relationship or make amends. But also, if it comes to a place, I may still sit there and feel guilt. Like, that's the type of person I am. I'll still sit there and feel guilty and stuff. But that's my own feelings. That's my own emotions. And that's something I had to learn. Like, that's something that the show modeled to me, was that sitting there trying to like go after people for forgiveness, and in the same process being self-destructive, and then being destructive onto all the relationships and all in all areas of your life. And it's like, is it really worth it to try to chase that instead of processing it through with myself and working through that.
Right.
And as whack as Bojack the show was and how effed up the parts were, what's beautiful about it is you can see it and know about and find the insight in yourself to say, I can see that. I can understand the behavior. And here's why I don't want to follow those same patterns. Here's what I can do to change that, to become a better person, to see someone else who's making mistakes and learn from, and you learn from them as the viewer. And you get to watch someone suffer the consequences of their actions in a realistic manner. And so you can gain the better awareness insight to say, these patterns are destructive. The chronic drinking, the drugs, the unstable relationships, those are destructive.
Right.
But you can change, and you can always be a better person.
Yeah, I always took it as Sarah Lynn and Diane were two sides of the same coin, where Sarah Lynn met her ultimate fate of, you're going through the motions of, quote, trying to get better, but you're not actually committing these things to getting better to memory. You're just doing what you think you need to do so that way you can get out of rehab just to go do it all over again. Whereas Diane realized, this isn't good for me. I don't really like the person I am all the time. I can't even find the happiness in happy stories because I'm looking for the bad stuff, and she decided I need to go on antidepressants because they actually do make life a little bit more bearable for me. It's the other side of admitting you need help isn't a crutch. It's admitting you need help, and then people are willing to help you if you ask. Do it.
And I think that's what's interesting. And I think something else is the same side, same like different sides of the same coin. I think that coin being Bojack himself. On one side, but Sarah Lynn seeing him as this like central support system. And that's how Diane meets him initially, as this central system, this central person. But on Sarah Lynn's side, she followed his behavioral patterns. She did what he did. She like modeled after him starting to drink on horse and around, him starting to get into drugs. She followed that, and him taking advantage of her. Those were all things that she in her mind believed thought was okay.
Mm-hmm.
And because that's what all she was around. She was enabled by the people around her, and it's not to blame her character as a whole, but the people around her enabled those destructive, those behaviors that would later become very destructive and lead to what happens. Versus Diane, she had other people around her who kind of also didn't enable Bojack and didn't enable her. And so she was able to kind of step away and say, wait a minute, this is okay. This isn't okay. There's many red flags. Let me go become a better person so I don't end up like that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it's interesting with Bojack. It's kind of like Diane, it's kind of like the audience for us. And Sarah Lynn, unfortunately, had to grow up with that. You know, already with her situation with her stepfather and her mom, the only other figure she saw modeled those behaviors. And she never knew any better, because then she was always enabled by it.
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it's interesting to see how Bojack himself doesn't have these beginning, middle, and end like characters in his story. He has these multi-dimensional effects on all the people around him in very complex and nuanced manners.
He really does, and it's almost like, I don't remember the episode, but where the lady wakes up out of a coma and she hasn't been anywhere since the 1980s.
I know who you're talking. I think her name's Wanda. Yeah.
Yeah, Wanda the Owl. the owl lady.
Yeah.
She makes it a point to Bojack of like, what happened? And he tries to play it off. It's like, oh, well, you thought you knew me and all of this. And it's like, no. That's not what happened. You, Bojack, have this weird phobia of getting close to people, and in your mind, you try really hard to justify ways of being super shitty to them, so they stop being near you. And Wanda's the only one that actually has just point blank called you out, and it's like, you know what? Nobody told me about the red flags because I was wearing road-colored glasses and I didn't even notice them. Now I see them. Like,
exactly. And because during the time whenever Diane met Bojack, I'm trying to think of his later future partners, but Wanda never got to see the real Bojack. She never really got to see how he truly affected the people around him until it got to that point.
Right.
And then Bojack, again, kind of excuses his behavior, his own self, because he doesn't want to take the time to practice that awareness and insight.
Yeah. For those of you who try to hand wave away, oh, I don't need therapy, I'm a wonderfully well-rounded person. I beg of you, even if it's something that you don't absolutely ever need, maybe do a once-a-year thing just to double-check that your house doesn't have termites.
Exactly, and I think, again, this show really shows that even if you don't think you have a problem, even if you don't think there's consequences to your actions, even if you think you're the most perfect Jesus human walking on earth, you have issues. I have issues. Everybody got issues. But how are you dealing with it? How are your issues being projected onto other people? Are your issues becoming self-destructive? Are they affecting every other area of your life? Either way, you got issues and they're going to come out some way.
Right.
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and you as the individual, you're the one who's able to, it's on you. You can, once I'll get to the therapy, but it's you as the individual who's got to recognize, yeah, these issues are there. Yeah, they're fucking me up. It's making my life worse, but I have to get help, and I can't help myself. And so, and I think, and that's what Bojack encourages, is Bojack was never really able to get himself there. He had to go to therapy. He had to go to rehab. And so I think a good takeaway is that get help. Help is always there, and help doesn't have to mean if you're at the worst state in your life where you're truly spiraling or such. Just get help. We all need help. We're humans. It's fine. And I think that's what it really shows, is people who think they're more successful, who are quote unquote high functioning, they're fine. And that's what Bojack thought he was. He thought he could drink every day. Thought he could just do drugs, and he was high functioning. But look where it got him.
Yeah.
And so I think we all need help, and that's what it really shows.
I think a lot of people, when they think therapy, I think the stigma, thanks Hollywood, that's a sarcastic thanks BTW, is they think that if they go to therapy, the therapist is going to be like, oh no, you definitely have to go into the crazy house because you're just a danger to society. 9 times out of 10, they don't want you to go into that kind of a place, because that is a place for people who really have hit rock bottom and then they kept digging kind of a place.
I can really, and I can speak from experience going through that system. And, I'm not trying to flex on bitches. It's not a flex, but I've been in the system for, I don't know, about 7 years now. So I can really say, that stigma is there. It's very negative. It's so wrong. It's actually, it kind of makes me laugh, is because, for example, those hospitalizations that people think, if you express any ideation or any severe thoughts, they never want you to go there. The thing they always say is, we want you to be at the lowest level of care. because we don't want to put you through that intense stuff. Like, they only really send you there if they think you're a threat to yourself or others. Like, it's not, that's not how the system works. And, like, every single therapist, or the majority of them, I should say, are there because they care. They're not there to, like, shame you or rat you out or make you feel less than human. They're there because they struggle, you struggle. They only just went on to get a career in how people struggle, and so they want to help you struggle less.
Right. Also, I don't think a lot of people know this. Hey guys, most therapists also have therapists themselves, because they also go talk to somebody, because it's probably a lot to talk to a lot of different people about their issues. Like, that's gotta be a lot. They would like to unload on somebody else of, like, I have so much to talk about. How does it make you feel? Overwhelmed.
And what's really interesting is I think, I don't remember the statistic, but it's actually happening now a lot more this is happening especially with, like, the younger social workers and therapists coming in, but the majority of them actually have a diagnosed mental illness, or in the past they met the criteria for a mental illness, and they go into the field because they relate, they know, and that's why they truly practice compassion and empathy, and want you to be able to be more effective and live a life that you feel is worth living, because they likely have been in the same spot, or felt the same way.
Right.
And exactly, and so therapy and help is never there to shame or guilt you. It's always there because they know, and they don't want you to feel that way. They want you to be happy,
Also, I think people forget, when you were a little kid, before you knew what therapy and mental illness was, who did you talk to constantly if not your parents? You would go to your friends and have I am so upset about this session, and you'd let it all out, and your friends would sit there and offer their, honestly, terrible advice, but they would offer you whatever advice they can give you. That was your freebie entry into therapy. That's all therapy is. You unload your problems, and the person who is actually licensed tells you, I think I know what your issue is, but it's going to take work to get through it.
Exactly, and the reality is like, as you get older, especially to, like, past your, I believe, 20, or past your, past 20 or so, your issues become more complex. They've just, over the years, they just build up due to, growing, changing, all that stuff. They become more complex. And so and that's where you need someone who has that professional understanding, who can kind of, who can kind of, clear apart all that mess and be able to get a clear picture and say, okay, I understand, and here's the treatment plan, and here's the recovery, and here's the steps we can take to kind of reduce those negative feelings or negative emotions. And I think that's what a takeaway should be.
It really should. And how do I put this? Do you remember that TikTok thing where it was the chick that was like, oh no, you've dumped all your mental health onto me and I don't know what to do? Hey guys, most therapists would love it if you gave all your problems in one sitting, because they can be like, hallelujah, I can make a game plan from day one instead of having to change it up every other week.
And some therapists and I think I heard another therapist say this, they're like, you know what? Some therapists, it may be too much for them to be able to get all down or process through at once, and so sometimes they may say, okay, pause, let's focus on one thing and then work on the next. And it's never to invalidate the person or to they don't care. It's because they're like, okay, I see one issue here, and let's not trigger them. And that's something else interesting I heard, was the reason why some therapists may do that is because unloading all your trauma at once may actually put the person at a higher risk for harming themselves or others due to the emotional state they may be put in. And so that's enough. It's not to like say don't go to your therapist, don't tell them everything, but it's like, just it's also about keeping you safe, and I think that's a big aspect to it.
Right. And circling back to Bojack Horseman, it's the reason why when Diane is trying to get off her antidepressants, when she thinks, oh, if I get off them, I'll be able to get back to my trauma, the reason why she's struggling so much is because your brain finally got its chemical balance right, and it was so happy, and now you trying to go backwards is one of those, no, thank you, the car can only go forwards, please don't reverse.
Yeah, exactly. And you can only take one problem at a time. And just address it, make sure you get through it, and then go to the next step.
Right, and I really like the fact that they named the episode Good Damage. It's like, okay, here's good damage. Like when you break a bone, that's technically good damage. Not because you broke your bone, but because now your brain now has a, yeah, we shouldn't do that again kind of a memory, so you don't redo it to break any more bones. That's good damage.
Exactly.
Put that good in quotes.
And something else I think is like, throughout my years in therapy and mental health and stuff, I've been put on, kind of like Diane, to some extent. I've been on and off medications all throughout my time. I've been on and off therapists. I've been in and out of stuff trying to throw things at the wall and see what can help. And it took a lot of damage. It was a lot of damage. Like chemically, trying to get all those substances in and out of you. Therapy, trying to find like the next therapist, one from the next, of who can help. And ultimately, I'm here where I am today, where I don't feel like the best, because I know that's an unrealistic feeling to have, but I'm content. I'm content where I'm at. I feel at peace. And it took a lot of damage to get here, but again, it was good damage. Good damage.
Right. I think that's the thing when people hear certain things, they try to be like, oh no, that's not good, that's bad. Is it? Here, ready? I don't have, right? Thanks, good insurance from my job. I don't have any mental illnesses, right? I have tendencies, but even then, that's not, I need to be on medication. You know what I do need to be on medication for? My multiple sclerosis, because that has actual active scars on my brain.
Yeah.
That will never go away. So that medicine is not for any mental illness. It's because if I don't get it, I'm not going to work physically right.
Exactly. And like, I think that's something people kind of not understand is like, you have to take, I guess for lack of a better word, is like you have to take the punches to feel better.
Right. We're not telling you never get damage, because if you never take damage, you don't know anything, right? You learn from mistakes. If you succeed all the time, you've learned absolutely nothing.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's what Bojack teaches. I think the show as a whole teaches is like, he took a lot of damage. Some were good, some were bad. He got what he got. He got the ending that he deserved. But for others, they also had to take the damage. And for some of them, it was bad. But for others like Diane, it was good damage.
Mm-hmm. For Princess Caroline, too, it was good damage. I loved you my whole life. Sometimes your first love isn't your only love. You got Judah. He's a weirdo, but he's very, to the point.
Exactly. And and she found the person who truly loved her after she went through Bojack, Ralph. Yeah, Ralph. She took a lot of damage, but she found Judah.
and she got her little daughter, Ruthie, was
Mm-hmm.
adopted because, Carolyn, you've literally took so much internal damage from a stupid necklace your mother gave to you as basically a bribe, unknowingly
Mm-hmm.
giving you lead poisoning over the course of your lifetime. So you can't have
Mm-hmm.
kids. But here's a baby. The baby needs you. Just fussy. And now, you got a husband and a kid. High five. You got the end goal. It took a long time to get there, but damn it, you did it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't catch that sneeze.
No, I think I just accidentally swallowed a bug. Ew.
Gross.
Love my life.
Also, I think they did a really good job with the fact that Mr. Peanut Butter, my guy, my dude,
Mhm.
you are so nice and so bubbly and so happy. By definition, everybody should love you. I fucking hated you throughout this entire series. You were so annoying. And I loved that I could hate him.
No, thank you. Everyone was like, Mr. Peanut Butter comic relief. And I'm like, is he really? Let's be real. Is he really? He's not. Like, yeah, he was funny at times. He had his little quirks and bits, like with Todd especially, but he made me want to punch him sometimes.
Right, and I think the reason why is like, yes, there are actually people like this in real life where, just like me, there's nothing. They're not they're not neurodivergent, so they don't understand. It's like, but why are you sad? I did everything you asked. That is not the point.
Exactly. Like, you can him sitting there trying to like do all these things for Diane to prove he loves her and like be like, well, I made you this, and she's like, that's not what I wanted, and he's like, I don't understand.
Right, whereas Guide is the opposite, where it's like, hey, do you want to go to the museum and stuff today, Chicago style? I gotta do stuff today. Alright, well, I made my obligatory I gotta be a good boyfriend thing. I'm gonna go play video games all day, love you, bye. And it's like, this.
Yeah,
Offer
that's kind of
and take the loss.
Yeah.
Take the
That's
L.
kind of really, yeah, that's what I want. You know? I think that's what we all are looking for, TBH.
Right? Just, hey, you want to go do stuff today? I've got other stuff that absolutely has to be done, like today. Can we do a rain check? Absolutely. I'm gonna go do stuff I like. I will see you later. Bye. Bye.
Perfect.
Let me know when you get there. So I don't think you got kidnapped or killed. Can do.
Exactly.
Which is not a bad thing. It's like, look, man, sometimes the only thing you absolutely need to do is make the offer. If they say yes, well, I guess your day is doing this then. If not, yes, I get to have my alone time.
Exactly.
And he told him exactly where he was going to be. I'm going to be in the living room playing video games all day.
And then if you want to go do something, you want to go chill together, then bam, boom.
Right.
Lord.
Which I was like, Guy, I'm really glad too that they introduced Diane to a man who already had a marriage and it fell apart, but he still has to take care of his kid. And he makes a point to her of like, I gotta go where my kid and the wife go because I wanna be by my son. Well, I guess it's a good thing I'm a writer. I can write anywhere as long as we got internet. Done. Let's
And
go.
like they were able to make it work.
Right?
Which I think is just like perfect all around.
Right. Also in that episode of Good Damage, when she's having her actual full-on spiral because she's having a panic attack in the kitchen, and he's like, what's going on? You're not acting right. I need you to tell me what's going on. I'm like, this. He's not getting worked up about it or like freaking out too much. He's very calmly, please tell me what is going on so I can help you.
Versus like, I don't know, like Mr. Peanut Butter, he would have like been like freaking his shit out, being like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But Guy was like, okay, I see you're upset. What's up? Come on, let's talk through this.
Right? And then, look, why don't you just even back out on the pills, and then when you're stable, we'll talk about other options. I'm like, this right here. He knows for a fact that she is not chemically stable enough to make any type of big medical decisions, but he knows I don't have any authority, technically, to make any decisions either. So, let's even you back out and talk about this.
Exactly, he's not like, oh, I'm gonna dip on you because you're acting crazy and stuff. He's like, okay, I know, like, you're not feeling well right now. Like, that's really what it is like, she just wasn't feeling well. And he was like, okay, let's get you back. Yeah, like, let's get you back to feeling well. And then when you're there, we can talk. Like, you know, if someone's, like, upset, you can't sit there and just be like, what's wrong with that? Like, we're all human. Let's treat each other like that.
Yeah.
They're not Bojack, because they're animals. Humanoid animals, I guess.
It's furry bait for those of you who are not initiated into the furry section yet. It's furry bait. For everybody else, it's just a good show.
Yes. Absolutely.
But also, too, during that exact same episode when he's like, okay, so you were in a really dark place, and don't be mad, but I made an executive decision. You are not an executive. Right there, it should have been a cut-down moment, and he should have gotten mad, but he was like, I made up, my girlfriend was a depressed, vomiting mess, and I didn't know what to do, but I need to make a decision. And I'm like, right here, admitting she wasn't helping. Your editor wanted the book pages. You only had the Ivy Tran food court detective stuff. I literally threw it at her like, oh my god, I just need to distract her long enough to get you back up and running. That's it.
Exactly. Like, let's get you calm. Let's get you even. Let's get you
functioning.
Exactly. Not dysregulated, not like freaking out. Just okay. Calm. Let's do what works. Let's do what works for the moment to get you there. We'll take the next step.
Right. And so I actually had to ask, because Rudy, my editor for the longer essay videos, I asked him, I was like, hey, really quick, I know that you've been suffering with depression basically your whole life. I need an actual, honest-to-God question, because he finally got around to watching Bojack. He's on season 6. I was like, can you actually have a depressive episode that lasts so long you don't even realize time has moved on? He goes, yes.
Oh.
There are times where you'll sit there and in your mind you're like, it's only been 5 minutes. We have the rest of the day to do it. Then you look outside and you're like, where the fuck did the day go? I was like, oh no.
I can say. Oh yeah, like there's been days whenever I've had like bad depressive episodes where I can even say days would go by. Like literal days would go by and I would just look up and I would ask like, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's Saturday, and then someone would say, no, it's Monday. Because like that's how like much it can affect you. And especially like whenever, you know, going off and on meds, that messes with you even more. And again, like it was a perfect depiction of what it's like to be on and off meds, going through that like experience, and also experiencing that type of depression.
Right. I think some people, other than the fact that therapy to them sounds like, oh no, they'll put me in the crazy house because I'm not a good person. Calm down, Sharon. That's not how this works. 9 times out of 10, they just give you good coping mechanisms that you can take with you for the rest of your life, so that way you're not in and out of their office for the rest of your life. Some people do need to be then.
And even then, therapists in particular, this is why I recommend therapy more, rather than going to a GP or like your doctor. Like, yeah, talk to your doctor, but the point of it is like to try not to be giving those medications, to try not to be like be bugging with your body. They're like, okay, if we can keep you from those medications, if we can keep you from affecting you neurochemically, we're going to do that. Instead, we're going to try these mechanisms because fun fact, crowd, this is for the crowd and listening, your brain has this really cool thing called neuroplasticity. Look it up, it's real. Your brain can rewire itself. That's what neuroplasticity does. It's your brain rewiring neurons that previously haven't been activated before, firing off. Therapy has been proven to change the neuroplasticity, to get those neurons rewired, to get them firing. And that's why therapy is so beneficial. And again, there are some people who, I'll be very real, this is proven also, there's some people who are just naturally, who have that genetic, natural low serotonin levels, or dysregulated, like kind of a misfire of the serotonin or dopamine and such. And that's why they go on antidepressants, because, you know, therapy can help only so much with that. Of course, it's therapy is always involved with treatment of depression. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist, I'm just someone who's simply going into psychology.
Oh, congratulations.
But that's why, yeah, thank you. And so, always I say to everyone, don't just take the meds, also go to therapy. But there's some people out there who also need the medicine, and that's totally valid, that's totally fine. And so, but again, it's mainly that therapy component. It's mainly applying those skills, applying those skills and picking them up and seeing, okay, I experience these symptoms, I experience these feelings, these emotions, these thoughts. How can I move forward? How can I go through my day-to-day life effectively?
Right.
So, yeah.
I think people kind of forget that, like, look, some of you just cannot make your own happy chemical. You can't. So you need what is more or less store-bought chemical, because your body can't make it. Like me, I can't make enough iron or vitamin D in my body, so I have to take an iron and vitamin D supplement because my body can't make it enough of it on its own, so I need to take them. And I'm fine with that.
And that's where I've gotten to. It's like, for example, because of my disorder, my brain is naturally born where my amygdala, I believe, is smaller. And so it fires more rapidly. And I also believe the same with the hippocampus. And so that kind of leads to emotional dysregulation, impulsivity, that kind of factors. And while I can learn the skills to cope with them, at the same time, I find that, I'm on a crap ton of medications, but that combination has made it manageable for me to learn how to cope with the symptoms. Do I plan on being on these medications for the rest of my life? No, I don't. But I'm trying to work with where I'm at in managing my symptoms and learning those skills. But also, I'll be real, there's other people who need to be on these medications for who knows how long. And that's valid. If that is what helps you to live, first of all, keeps you from dying, or keeps you, like, I don't know the best word, like, high functioning. I don't like that word, but that's the best one I can think of right now.
Stable might be a better word, just like...
Stable. Yeah, stable. There we go. Like, healthy and stable. If that's what you need, then you do. Then, yes. I think people view medication and therapy itself, like health and mental health treatment, as very black and white, when it's not.
It's really not. And the only thing I can ever think of when I have to tell people, it's like, you need to visit more than just, one. Especially if all they're doing is prescribing meds, is actually a song from 47 Milliliters where it's called My Psychopharmacologist and I. The whole song is just her listing off all of these medications, and I'm like, lady, I don't think you're supposed to be taking that much all the time, all at once.
Like, let me say, right now I'm on 6 different medications, but one of them is a double medication, so I have to take 7 pills a day. And that's not good for me. I'm not a doctor, but that's not good. like already now I'm 19 and I'm having to watch what I'm eating, because the combination can cause metabolic syndrome, like pre-diabetes, because of the side effects. It's causing like weird hormone changes in me, as if I'm pregnant, because of the side effects. I'm now getting like some hallucinations. Like, it's all these very weird side effects that just build on top of each other, and I'm like, and I know it's helping me. It's like, it's the pros and cons. Like, cons, I will feel so much worse if I'm off them. The pros, yeah, I have these weird fucking side effects, but I feel happier. I feel more, not happier, I feel more content and more stable.
Well, that's always the good part of it, right? It's like you need to get to a point where you're good. Not
Exactly. If that means I have to take a medication where I will, it's actually kind of funny. I'll kind of black out, kind of like the best way I can describe it is like you're kind of blacking out drunk. But then I'll go to my kitchen, I've been eating this entire box of Cheez-Its. I don't remember it. Like, I won't remember. I'll just wake up and there's food next to me. I mean, to me, it's kind of funny. I think it's funnier now to laugh at the side effects and be like, ha ha, I get the munchies. Ha ha.
right.
I'm getting booby milk. Weird side effects.
Right.
Like, I laugh at them now. Like, it's because I feel more stable and I feel like, okay, is what it is. You know, that's something we actually learn in therapy. Radical acceptance is, here's the reality. You can't do anything about it. Like, it sounds very, like, harsh and very blunt, but that's the point of the skill, is you say, this is reality. I can either deny it or I can accept it. If I deny it, shit will hit the fan. If I accept it, it's going to suck right now, but I'm going to keep going.
Right. Like the medication I get, because it has to be literally dripped into me from an IV bag, which takes about 2 hours.
Yeah. Oof.
Right. I'm terrified of needles, and they know that, right? There's actually a note, like, terrified of needles, do not engage until after everything's done. And I'm like, yes, they're aware of this. And the side effect after I get my medicine for my MS is, oh man, I am super awake for about 20 minutes, and then I crash hard, and I take like a 2-hour power nap, and then I'm good. The side effect is, I'm sleepy.
Exactly. Like, I think it's kind of funny now. Like, it's really funny when I talk to like other, like, you know, like, I consider like SMIs, like severe mental illness, as disabilities, or other forms of this. I consider some mental illness as disability. I don't want to get into that discourse, but you know, I talk to other disabled people, and we all come to a point where we all joke and we're like, yeah, you know, I get stuck with a needle and these shit side effects, but I'm vibing. And like, one of my best friends, she's also dealing with some shit. All we can do is just say, laugh at it and just be like, ha, and move forward.
Well, I've noticed this from mine, right? Because stress is not good for me. Which means I need to keep my stress level as low as possible, because if I get too much stress, I run the risk of having a flare-up, and then I have to go back to the doctors, and it's a whole big thing. I found that because of this diagnosis, I literally just started doing this to people, and it makes me laugh because it pisses them off so much, where they want to start fights, and I'm like, okay, whatever, that's your opinion. Right there, what exactly is your next move? Because I've literally just cut off all avenues by saying, okay, if you want to argue about it, by all means, go ahead. I've just given up on this entire conversation and I'm going to move on with my life.
Yes, and that's what's funny to me, is because, you know, like, I met some people who are kind of like instigators, kind of like fight, you know, that's what they like. And I've come to a point where also, it's actually interesting, one of the criterion for my illness is if becoming stressed causes, like, it can cause like a spiral, it can cause, you know, or flare up of symptoms. Yes, because that's how, like, stupid brain. So I've had to get better at backing down from like arguments and confrontations, because I'm like, this is just going to trigger me into like a whole episode. I can't do that to myself. And so I've gotten to a point where like these people who kind of like to go rah, 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 back and forth, I'm like, okay, y'all battle that out. I'll sit here, I'll try my best to support y'all, but if it gets too much for me, I'm tapping out.
Right.
Like, because I can only help y'all so much, but I also got to help myself, and if that means tapping out, leaving it to y'all, so be it.
Right, it's like, look, there are some people that absolutely need to remain Switzerland in all conflicts, not because they don't have their own 2 cents to put into the opinion, but they can't be dragged into whatever war you guys are going into, because it'll end badly.
Exactly, and you're like, and it's not for like you don't care about them, or again, you don't have your own opinion, but ultimately when you deal with stuff like, you know, like your illness and like my mental health, like, if dealing with that additional stress that you don't even have to deal with makes you worse off, then why the fuck am I going to deal with it? You know?
Right. It's also the reason why, and I've noticed this, a lot of people that have physical or mental diseases where stress is a negative factor, they tend to gravitate towards each other because 9 times out of 10, they talk about very benign things that are not instigating arguments because we watch the same show. I have a different opinion on it, but we watch the same show. It's not like we watch 2 totally different shows that are trying to argue whose is better.
And, like, I'll sit there and I'll, like, sometimes, like, I'll state my opinion if someone disagrees. I may have a little discourse back and forth. But once it gets to a certain point, that's when you're like, you know, this ain't worth it. This ain't, like, this is not worth it, you know? Like, why are we sitting here arguing and bitching when we're just stressing ourselves out and ultimately worsening yourself?
Right. It's the reason why, and I know I do this because it's a good thing. I like listening to people read Reddit stories. Reddit stories, for all intents and purposes, are designed to get you riled up about it, but me listening to somebody basically audiobook it, all I can think of is, that's wild. And move on with my life.
Exactly. Oh, but, yeah. That. I don't know what else. Yeah. Brandon's bird.
Yeah, but, right? It's like, look, people that have disabilities, either mental health-wise or physical-wise, tend to gravitate towards each other for a myriad of different reasons, including but not limited to, generally, comfort. Because, what's wrong with Carol today? I don't know, I think she's having an episode. So what are you doing just playing with her hair? Carol likes it when I braid her hair, and also we listen to the same punk rock music, so that's what she's got in her ears right now, and I am literally watching TV while doing all of this. Do you want to sit?
Exactly. Like, I saw a friend recently, and we just hung out, and, you know, I'm always awkward around people, because I'm the type of person where I just like to go on my phone, watch TikToks, look at memes while I'm sitting with them, and for some people, they don't like that. But when I was hanging out with this person, you know, first thing we did whenever we hung out was pulled out both of our phones, sat together, and just watched TikToks, showed each other the memes, and just laughed. And that was, like, truly the most comfortable I've ever felt.
Some people are very comfortable just being, and it's not even an antisocial thing, it's literally a comfort proximity thing. That's all it is.
Yes,
it's
comfort level.
It's my buddy. We're doing our own things. And if I fall asleep on them, they'll make sure I actually lie down on, like, horizontally so I don't get a crick in my neck. It's great.
Exactly.